All muted, unmuted, I think. There we go. Good evening, everybody. Matt Geary for the Geek Pride cast on this Sunday evening. With me, we have another guest. But as always, we have Peter Ray Allison.
Hey, how you doing, everyone?
JonJo Cosgrove, not in the flesh today.
I'm sorry, Matt, but good evening, everybody.
Josh Varney.
Hello.
And newbie to the podcast. She lurks in the darkness. She comments with things on Twitch. It's Eleanor Main.
Hi.
Giggle, giggle. And our guest tonight, we have Erika Sanderson. Welcome.
Hello. Hi there.
You were subjected to a long period of Geek Pride pre-podcast madness. So I hope you're okay after that. And my apologies.
I'm still here.
It's hazing. It's fine.
Okay, so first things first. Erika, who are you? What are you doing here? What are you up to? What's going on?
Oh, that's a lot of stuff, really, isn't it? Well, my name's Erika, and I was invited along to Geek Pride by JonJo, who very kindly got in touch with me.
Hello.
Hello. Can you? Hello. I am predominantly a voice actor, and I believe he knows my work through the No Sleep podcast, which is a weekly horror anthology show. And so that's kind of what I do. So I spend a lot of my time recording a variety of different sort of stuff. What am I doing here? Who knows?
Nobody paid the ransom.
And yeah, basically JonJo bribed me with like being able to talk stuff about Star Wars. So
Oh, you see,
And,
see why he's done that.
That was it.
See
Yeah, but
why
the thing
he's
is,
done
Matt-
that. Why he's done that is because you no doubt take his side on a specific topic, which he gets attacked on quite
Well,
regularly.
Erika
You
did-
see,
Erika
so he
did-
needed
I
backup.
deliberately,
You're a ringer.
deliberately listened to one of your previous episodes, and I was like making notes, going like, "Oh, really?"
You listened to one of our previous episodes and you still came on?
Pete, I can see me and you taking a back seat of this episode tonight. Like this is gonna kick off.
Oh, we got a
It's,
few.
it's like me and Matt actually have a referee this time as well.
Well, yeah, maybe. We got a message on Facebook, Kyler Kelly, saying, "What's this about?" Not my first time seeing this. Well, yeah, this isn't Among Us. This is the Geek Pride cast. This is one of the other things that we do because we're sophisticated and we talk about shit and stuff, and that's what we're gonna do.
We multimedia.
We talk about
A lot
stuff.
of pies, many fingers.
Also, I think Eleanor has an interesting point she would like to make about Star Wars along the lines of Darth Jar Jar or something like that. Which I would be interested.
I have joked about that, but
You have joked, but now you're going to have to talk about it because that's what you're here for. You sit there, you're on Twitch, you spout off, and then you're here. So
I'm being called out. Like, I'm such a troll. But no, it's one of those things where I discovered the Darth Jar Jar theory. And it's so funny to me. But also helps me get through Jar Jar. Like,
well,
it kind of
He must
starts
have
out
had a
as a
motive.
joke. It's like a joke that just I keep joking about to a point now. It's just not ironic anymore. It's just.
we'll move on to the Star Wars debate slightly there. Erika's here to sort of as the main guest, so we should really talk about her for a bit. So we'll do that first. So the horror podcast, No Sleep. What is it? Just sort of, have you got specific genres you talk about? Because one of the guys who used to do a lot of Geek Pride stuff, Dave Foy, he is massively into his horror, so he's going to be gutted he's not here. But what sort of thing is it? Any specific type of genre, or is it all horror? What's the score?
Oh my goodness, yeah, it's No Sleep in particular is a horror anthology show. So it started back in about 2011, based off the Reddit No Sleep, where people submit their own horror stories. and a group of people decided, oh, will it be fun to kind of do this as like a podcast? And it was all first person narrative, so one person, one microphone, and it sort of took off from there. And the guy kind of became responsible for the show, David Cummings, who is just amazing and a brilliant, generous man, absolutely wonderful, incredibly talented, has kind of grown it over. We're on season 15 now.
Wow.
And it's now fully audio dramatized. So it's kind of moved away through the progression of several years from one person, one mic talking about like campfire radio into more old school, almost radio style. So everything is fully dramatized. We have a repertory company of about 30 actors worldwide. We have several amazing producers who put together all of the sound effects and all the editing and everything that makes it sound like, I do all of my work remotely, and we've done a few live tours. And when I went over to the States, when we could still travel and meet people in the before times, I went on tour a couple of years ago, and people were like, it's like, oh wow, so what's it like being flown over to record your lines? It's like, really? I kind of just sit in the corner of my kids' playroom with a microphone, and I do all of my stuff remotely. So I'm playing a variety of characters, playing opposite different people, and quite often I don't even hear what they're doing until it's all put together. So it's kind of grown into this full-on audio experience. And yeah, so that's No Sleep. And the writing, the genres, oh my goodness, they do everything from like first person sort of campfire stuff to full on body horror. You've got ghost stories about the Fae, recurring characters in some of them. So some of the writers have created like there's a fantastic vampire series known as the Summer series, and the writers some of them have come from the No Sleep Reddit forum, and then others come by through submission. And yeah, it's a brilliant community. The horror community is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Their fans are amazing. Fans are absolutely amazing.
Have you got anything? Have you got anything sort of sorted for Halloween?
The Halloween scripts, we tend to work about 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So the Halloween scripts will have been worked on. I'm not sure if they've been sent out yet. I had a couple of whisperings a couple of weeks ago that there would be something coming out very, very, very soon regarding Halloween. But for Halloween, we tend to do specials as well. So you'll get the regular episode that comes out weekly, and one of those will be around about Halloween time. And then usually on Halloween itself, they try and do like a special bonus one as well. So Halloween's a very, very busy time. And because I personally end up by doing other horror shows as well, I've been doing a few other scripts for other shows, and people are going, "Oh, we need this special for Halloween. Can you record this for us?" So yeah, I've been doing a bit of that recently.
How long does it take to produce an episode of No Sleep?
The turnaround is usually about a week.
Wow.
When I first started, and now it's got a very, very it's a bigger machine with clockwork. We have story editors who select the stories. We've then got a coordinator who casts it. The scripts then go out, the lines are then recorded, and then it is fed to one of 3 or 4 producers sometimes to put it together. And then we have an amazing composer, Brandon Boone, award-winning composer, who does all of the music for us, and he does all of that. So to produce one episode is usually about a week. When I first started, I think my turnaround for lines was about 72 hours. So I had 3 days to record.
Who directs it? Is it up to you then to basically, the way it turns up to them? Do they ever sort of send you back stuff and go, we kind of want it to sound like this, or is it literally just up to yourself?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, usually it's the producers, so the people who are cutting and editing it, they were the ones who have more of a sort of directorial overview. As an actor, we all work remotely, and what we tend to do is usually you'll provide about 2 or 3 takes on a line. If you're doing main narration, you tend to do that in a block, and you just tend to do more of a straight read. If you're doing dialogue, I tend to give about 3 readings of a line, and you trust that one of those will match in context, so it sounds like a proper conversation. So you might either give different inflections, or you might increase the emotion because you don't quite know where they'll want the scene to sound or go to. And then if we really cock it up, we'll get a message going, can you do this again?
But there's been some episodes which have obviously the average length is around about 20-30 minutes for a lot of them, but then there's been one actually a couple of my favourite stories, the Seaside British Pub and Return to Seaside British Pub, which the second one was about 2.5 hours long. Which,
that was the season finale. Yeah, that was a really special one. Yeah.
I'm assuming that must have been a nightmare, especially if you are doing multiple takes, and that is a long story to get through.
I got that because that was the season finale, and it was there were other characters in it, but I would say probably about 60-70% is just me talking. With that one, I think I got that one about a month in advance, and the way it was actually written by Caitlin into chapters. So I said, right, this is how I'm going to do it. I'll record a chapter, send it to you. It can be started to be worked on in the background, and then I will do that week by week. But yeah, that one was a behemoth, but such a beautiful beautiful story. How
did you get into voice acting?
My background is theatre. That was where I trained in musical theatre, but I've always been a stage actor. And after I graduated from drama school, I was on tour doing a variety of things for about 10 years. And then sort of my personal life sort of changed. I ended up by looking after a family member, and then I also got married and I started a family, and I knew I couldn't really do buggering off around the country for 6 months on end at a time. I knew I couldn't do that anymore, so I started to look into how can I sort of sidestep. And I was working on a theatre show at the time, and anyone who's regular with No Sleep probably has heard this story many times over, but my sort of partner in crime is a wonderful, wonderful actor called David Alt, and who's a massive Whovian fan as well. So if you like Doctor Who, definitely get him on to talk about stuff. And I was working in a theatre show with him. And I just happened to be talking to him, and I said, I'm looking at getting into voice work. And he said, I do this horror show. And this was kind of just before No Sleep sort of skyrocketed. And he said, I do this kind of horror podcast, weekly shows, and they're kind of wanting to get another British female voice artist. So I'll mention your name. So I got a message through from David Cummings, who's responsible for the No Sleep podcast, and he was actually a guest producer on another show. And he sent me the script and said, "Can you turn this around in 2 weeks? It's a single person narration story. I've been asked to do another show. Can you do this?" And it was a short story. I reckon that was probably my audition. So I recorded that, sent it off, and then a few weeks later, scripts for No Sleep started to come through, and I was paired up as David Alt's wife, and then the scripts just kept coming. And then it was a case of do you do any accents at all? And I think we need like a Russian granny. Do you reckon you could do that? Yeah, okay, I can do that. Did that.
Do your Russian granny. Do your Russian granny. Do your Russian granny.
What's it going to sound like?
Well, my darling, it's probably, you have to, if you're doing an older person, I tend to try and get a crack in the voice. And you get a little bit of shakiness going on there as well.
I think I need to take notes, you see, because we've got a D&D campaign every Thursday, and I basically can do sort of Northern Irish, a female version of Northern Irish, slightly higher version of Northern Irish, and maybe Scottish or Yorkshire, and that's kind of probably about my repertoire. I do a semi-Russian type one as well, but
I've been trying to do a Russian accent for Draken, and it kind of keep forgetting it, so I kind of yo-yo between Russia and Yorkshire.
See,
I can't.
If you are from the northeast, you see, you'd probably like the pub stories that JonJo was talking about, because that's where my dad's family are from. See, and the pub stories are set in the northeast, so you might
Whereabouts the northeast?
Well, it's allegedly set in Scarborough, but my dad's family come from a little bit further north, which is where
Okay.
kind
I'm
of
from
where,
originally Middlesbrough, so I know Scarborough quite well.
yeah. Well, my dad's from Loftus.
Where's I?
Loftus.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. So yes, that's where I used to spend childhood holidays up there with my dad's family.
I always had a sort of like I had this like many moons ago. We did this like competition for Geek Pride. This was like one of the first couple of years we had started, and it was like a create your own zombie survival sort of story, and you had to base it on 4 fictional characters and yourself, so it could be anybody. Like, so we had one of the guys, he had like B.A. Baracus from the A-Team, and had sort of like really random things and stuff like, and they were like, I was like, oh, I'd love to do sort of audio versions of this, get people in from Geek Pride to do sort of different ones and have like a podcast, but it never came about, especially considering mine was 14 pages long, and it was just like, I think that's not gonna happen. I would love to do something like that. It sounds like so much fun. Unfortunately, my acting capabilities are very minimal, and there's a lot more talented people than me.
Erika, what kit do you need for voice acting?
What kit?
Yeah.
A microphone and a decent audio interface. The first thing people sort of say when about getting into voice work or voice acting is my first thing is always learn to act. Really. A lot of people think it's either just reading or doing silly voices, but I think you get to know the people who are very, very good, and it is a craft. I believe it's a craft, and you do have to work at it. But I started out, the very first thing that I recorded was I got a Rode microphone, sort of like a podcasting kit. So I got a Rode NT1A and little Scarlett interface, which I still use actually. I've still got my original mic. I'll just lean this in for people who want to see it. That's my little microphone there.
Oh, nice.
So that's the microphone that I've got, and then I've got a little interface box. And I started with Audacity, and I started in my dining room underneath a duvet on a clothes horse. So literally with a duvet like this huddled over, and with my script and trying not to make noise with the pages, and it was all a little bit like, oh, and that's how I started. And then gradually I've mainly kept with the same microphone. I've moved on from Audacity. I tend to record now using a system called Reaper, and then as you can probably see, I've got this board behind me, which just kind of makes, because I'm in a different corner of the house now, and it's mainly where my kids play. So I've just kind of shut myself off, and I can kind of enclose myself. So yeah, you kind of need to treat the space that you're working in so that you can deaden the sound as much as possible. And yeah, they're decent microphone, something to record with, and yeah, the skill.
A couple of like my bands. I don't sing or anything, but when we go to record our stuff, there's like a box for the singers to go, and it's basically a closet filled with obviously foam on the walls and stuff, and it's tiny. There's enough room for you and a microphone and maybe a screen, and that's about it.
I was gonna say, obviously, a lot of the work that you do, Erika, is horror based, but you did actually tell me that you're not exactly your horror isn't your go-to. Let's just say this is quite amazing. When you hear someone say, "Oh, I do a horror podcast," and you think, "Oh, you must be really into that," because obviously to get into some of them stories, to really delve into it, and then I got a message saying, "Yeah, I'm not a big horror." What really?
I'm just a big wuss, really. I get scared too easily.
What are we talking about? Because like my girlfriend is literally, she jumps at like the worst things. Like everything makes her jump whatsoever. She refuses to watch horror films. We tried to watch It Part 1 with her, and she got about halfway through and refused to watch any more of it.
Oh, you're so
Okay.
mean.
So my husband does enjoy horror films, and October is always, every night is a spooky film for him. He absolutely loves it, and I infuriate him because as soon as we go on, I'm like this with my phone. And he's going, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Are you on IMDb?" Maybe. And then he'll watch me, and I'll like take my glasses off and like surreptitiously hide behind a cushion. He went, "Is there a jump scare coming up? Is there a scary bit coming?" Maybe. "Have you been reading the plot on IMDb?" Yes. Or I'll just go, "I'm just going to the bathroom, just going to the toilet, darling." And he goes, "Do you want me to pause it?" No, it's fine. You just carry on. And he knows because I have to read the plot lines ahead. And oh my goodness, yes, this was my big confession to JonJo. A couple of weeks ago, we were watching the remake of Halloween, or the newest one.
With Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah.
Yeah, the new one, but with Jamie Lee Curtis. We got about at least a third of the way, possibly nearly halfway through this film, and Michael Myers is there as an adult, and he's been spoilers. He's been like released from prison and things, and I was sitting there and I was like on the sofa and I went, "Hang on, why is he a grown up? I thought, isn't he meant to be like the ghost of a dead kid from a lake or something?" My husband immediately puts it in Paul and go, "Oh my god, no, it's Jason."
Wrong, bad guy.
No, and I was like, "Who? You're thinking of Jason, the one with the hockey mask. Is that not him then?" No. Yeah, that was my big thing to get.
I've not seen either of those. I'm really not a horror fan. Like, I can appreciate creepy stuff, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a fan of like the general horror genre. But do you know what? Haunting of Hill House is the first serious horror thing that I've been like, that was mind-blowingly good. I
thought it was a good series, but I wasn't, bar some jump scares, I didn't find it as scary as I thought I would.
But it's not about jump scares, is it? It's all psychological.
Chilling,
that's why I found it so good.
Well,
one of the writers from No Sleep was one of the staff writers on that, CK Walker.
Seriously? Wow.
Yes. Oh, she goes by a different name now, Rebecca. I think she's known by us as CK Walker, but I think for Haunting she was known as Rebecca Klingle.
Oh, okay.
So yes,
okay.
Mike Flanagan is a huge fan of hers. He even guested on No Sleep as well because he likes the show.
All right.
Wow.
That's really good.
Yeah, no, that series was so good, and I'm so happy because it's the second season's out now. I think
I saw the last episode. I saw the first episode last.
I haven't started it.
Don't
say
anything. No, I won't. I've been seeing people like.
I'm so excited.
What's the second one called? What's the second?
Haunting of Blind Manor.
Oh,
I'm so
right.
excited.
All right. So I've seen some advert with some girl playing with a dollhouse, and I was just like,
yeah, the little girl is actually Peppa Pig. That's the voice actress of Peppa Pig.
Right. All right. Yeah,
Nice.
I like psychological, like back in the day, like old school horror films like The Exorcist and Halloween and Friday the 13th and stuff used to scare shit out of me. But when you go back and watch them now, you're just like, these are super tame. Even like my girlfriend, who's super jumpy at everything, we watched The Exorcist and it didn't really bother her that much. And it's just because like old school horror doesn't really have the same weight as it does now. Whereas like stuff that really gets me is the stuff that plays with your head and you have to think about it. Like, you know, like what, you know, what one was it? One of the worst parts in a horror film for me, and I don't even like the horror film, but it's just that part, is the part in what's it called? The one where they're in the house and there's all the it's not poltergeist, it's paranormal activity. Yeah. The bit where she gets dragged out of bed. It literally just drags her out of the bed screaming down the hall, and that literally just sent me under. I just couldn't sleep. And I don't believe in ghosts or anything, but that sent me under and stuff, and I was just like, oh man. And it's things like that that really, really get me.
I think everyone has a fear though of having their sleep interrupted by something scary, right? Is that not just like a human nature thing?
I think so.
Right?
So I think there's a condition called sleep paralysis.
Oh, and that of course.
Which is bloody terrifying. I had it for years, and yeah, that is a very kind of intense fear I think.
There's a ghost
yeah.
story about that. I heard as a kid, and it's about a guy who goes into a house and he basically gets woken up by a blue face, and he can't move, and this blue face basically just looks at him the whole time. And I just sort of say it again.
The night hag, I think.
Yeah,
it's basically an urban myth. Like, this night hag is like rests on your stomach and prevents you from moving, sleep paralysis, and it's like it's her draining your life essence or some stuff.
Yeah, well, it's just like I was thinking about this like old school, even the old school sort of ghost stories are pretty lame. Like I remember sort of telling my ex's kid some ghost stories a couple of years back, and I was telling her the one about the Tailipo. And have you ever heard of the story about the Tailipo before?
No. The what?
It sounded like this is going to sound really lame. This is going to sound really lame, but at the time when you're a kid, it's super scary. But basically,
listen, you're talking to someone who was scared of the fucking Mumbles, right?
It was the Moomins.
This is
I used to get scared by
they were freaky though. The Moomins are pretty freaky. Yeah, they are pretty
the most
scary.
Scariest use of fuzzy felt ever known to mankind. They were really.
They just have
Don't say that, because that's since my little sister was a baby, that was the nickname I gave her, was Moomin. And it weren't until she watched the cartoon so many years later, she said to me, "You call me a bloody hippo." I was like, no, I was thinking you was like, as adorable.
You call me fat.
it was like, no, I said it was something adorable. It was and the problem is that she has, leaned to it a few times. And I remember a Christmas a few years ago, I actually did buy her a Moomin plush toy. She opened it up, and no lie, if looks could kill, I think I would have been dead within a second. Literally, it was just like daggers coming from the eyes. It's like, so it's supposed to be something nice.
Yeah.
So it's socks for you for the next foreseeable future Christmas.
I don't even get socks. I don't even get that. I think I'm lucky if I see a card, and even then, it was just like a bit of paper that was like folded in half. It's like,
it's a macaroni in it. There you go.
Yeah, something like that. But saying about like horror stuff, the horror that I always felt really affected me was the ones where you could believe it could be true. So stuff like. Silence of the Lambs is still one of my favourite horror films of all time.
It's not really a horror film,
it's more psychological, but I like those. They are my kind of films that I like more, or even like just something that you feel could be possible. Even I know they got really tedious, but the first Saw movie, that was one of them kinds of.
That was really good.
You really think like, oh god,
couldn't watch it, man. Couldn't watch it. Can't do gore. Can't do gore. I couldn't. I watched half of it. Was eating some fried chicken and decided I wasn't hungry anymore and refused to watch it anymore. I said I can't deal with it, man.
Yeah. It was. I mean, despite the gore, it was incredibly well written. I mean, that's what gets me in a horror film is like the quality of the writing, and that's why I still say Dog Soldiers.
Awesome.
Is a fantastic film. It is a horror film, but the focus is on the soldiers. Rather than the werewolves, and basically they say like it's not a werewolf movie with soldiers; it's a soldier movie.
I hope I give you the fucking shits.
That sounds good.
It's really, I've not heard of it. Really
You've never heard of Dog Soldiers?
No.
Oh man,
6
it's
soldiers
awesome.
on maneuvers in the Scottish Highlands.
The guy who
that sounds interesting.
the guy played
Kevin McKidd.
Yeah, Kevin McKidd he was
Sean Pertwee and Captain H.G. Wells.
Yeah. It's the guy who played the Onion Knight in I can't remember his name from Game of
Thrones.
Thrones.
Liam Cunningham.
Davros.
Yes, he's
Ian Cunningham.
Yeah.
So where is that? Is that like on Netflix or what?
I don't know.
You'll have to have a look.
It's so good. The thing is, it's British. It's British horror, so there's a bit of humor in it, and there's some really good bits in it. Like it's scary, but it's like there's some good humor parts in it as well.
It's nicely balanced.
It's a good balance, so it takes the edge off it ever so slightly. But it's just really good.
Yeah.
With most horrors, though, the horror films that were out like in the 80s, like early 80s, early 90s, I mean, you'd take Aliens or the Alien trilogy. We won't really go into Alien Resurrection because I still believe it doesn't exist. You take Alien, the first time, spoilers, when the cast didn't know the chestburster scene was going to happen, and the actual reactions in the room is their actual reactions to what's going on. It's just pitch perfect. And most people see that as a horror. Then I was introduced to Aliens first. I never saw the first film. I saw Aliens first. This sounds
Still
really
the
weird,
best
but there we
one, in
go.
my opinion.
Literally, I was introduced to the director's cut version before I even knew there was a cinematic one where bits were cut out. And I think I was 11 and 12 when I first saw Aliens, and I was introduced to action quite early, and I thought it was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. With things crawling around and things that attached onto the ceilings. Fantastic. Watch it now. It is one of the best action films with horror in it that you'll ever see. And then you're on about The Exorcist, one of the best comedic films I've ever sat down to watch in my entire life.
Yeah,
because some of the dialogue is just, who the hell wrote this? I mean, let Jesus fuck you. It's like, who the hell writes this? I mean, this is funny as hell.
Yeah, it doesn't age well. It hasn't aged well. A lot of those sort of 70s, sort of early 80s horror films, just that they haven't aged well. The only sort of film, 99, was it possibly 90, or was it 95? Event Horizon. That is a good horror film, and that is just sci-fi horror at its best, and it freaked me out. Absolutely freaked me out.
It's a combination of Solaris meets Hellraiser.
It is, yeah, sort of thing, but it's really, really. It's got what's his name? New Zealand
Sean Pertwee again. Sean Pertwee, Sam Neill.
Sam Neill's, yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne,
yeah. And it's freaky, and it's just that. And I liked the Blair Witch Project. I thought that was really good. I just sort of. You didn't like it, Pete? Really?
Absolutely hated it, because I'm jumping up and down, shouting at the video, going, "What do you think you do? Why can't you read him out? What do you mean you're going into the jungle, into the without being able to read him out?"
That's sort of thing why I hate horror generally. That whole thing of just stupidity in the characters, that kind of thing.
Stupidity, I think, is the best way to put it.
Well, I would like to point out that I run a D&D group, and we had a game where they had to infiltrate a town. The whole thing was they're going to infiltrate a town, and what was the first thing they did was just walk up the main street, just fully as they were and stuff. So it's just like, I think people just sort of. They have all these intentions, but they're idiots and they do stuff. And
to be fair, one was a 7 foot tall half man, half dragon, and the other is like a 6 foot tall warforged. They don't exactly do subtle. They do stand out by their very nature.
I know, but it's just like, I think it's one of those things, like, human beings are inherently stupid, and they do stupid things. So I can accept people doing things like that because I've seen it happen. So it's just
Blair Witch Project though kind of killed it for any like the first person view of a horror film. I mean, I went to see it in the cinema, and everybody's like, "Ooh, suspension." As soon as she's I like to say sorry to Mike's mom, my mom. One guy in the cinema, and everybody is pitch quiet. It's pitch black. Everybody's quiet, and this guy goes, "Somebody get that lass a tissue," which killed it for me. I was like, "Well, there you go."
They did that. But they filmed that without them knowing about it. So they basically made them camp in the woods, and then everything that happened to them was sort of like real.
It was the crew playing tricks on them.
Yeah, so the crew would play tricks on them, so they would actually feel, so when she was doing that scene, she was shitting herself, actually. she was not impressed. Like, I saw a documentary on it. It was really well done, the whole thing. When the guy went missing is because they basically made him go missing and stuff, so they didn't know. And the reactions are, are actual reactions. So that's why I like it, because it was really, you didn't really see anything. It was very real. And I come from an allegedly haunted area in Northern Ireland, and I broke down. Well, I got a puncture basically after seeing it. Came back, got a puncture in my car outside the building where they used to hang people in the village I'm at, and I'm just sitting there bricking it because I'm trying to change this tire and get home, and that whole thing was just playing off in my head, and I was like, yeah, that's a good horror film because it's just playing in my mind.
Has anyone watched Ringu, by the way?
What? What's what?
Ringu, the Japanese horror film. It wasn't as the Ring in the UK.
Ring.
Yes.
The Ring. It wasn't just the Ring in the UK, but Ringu. Yeah, I watched that the first time at a mate's house on a dodgy VHS cassette. I then walked home, by myself in the dark, and I can tell you I have never run so fast in all my life. Because that, I mean, again, it's just pure atmosphere. That film just absolutely exudes atmosphere.
I'm trying to think. I quite liked what's it called? Jeepers Creepers for the first half of it until it turned into an actual monster. I actually thought that was pretty good, and then it sort of lost its edge slightly because it was sort of it turned into sort of a horror film and stuff. I mean, sort of a monster film, but yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
The second one is great, and the director's audio commentary on Jeepers Creepers 2 is some of the funniest. It does take you out to the fact that it's a horror film. The director's commentary is some of the funniest things you can listen to by watching the film. And if you do have Jeepers Creepers 2, some of us still have DVDs. Watch it with the director's commentary on, and you'll laugh all the way through it. They go on about how they wanted to put it towards KFC with wings, because there's a scene where I don't know what it was, but it had wings. And the director goes, a big bucket, a bucket of, and he goes, big fucking wings. So they can, okay. What a great way to make everyone who's feeling uneasy about a film start laughing at your horror film.
Yeah. The best sort of horror film I've seen, I didn't mind it. I haven't seen the second part actually, but I didn't mind it. But the best horror film I've seen recently would have been 2 or 3 years ago was Ghost Stories by your man Nyman, who did League of Gentlemen, and he does all of Darren Brown's stage shows and things like that. And it's 3 stories, and I did a very prolonged article about it because it's really. Have you ever seen a film called The Babadook? It's an Australian horror film called The Babadook.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, I heard of it.
So basically, it's freaky as fuck. Like it's pretty scary, but it's one of these things which has a sort of end where you're like, "What the fuck just happened?" Like you don't understand, and part of you thinks that you kind of go, "Well, that's shit. I don't understand," because you don't understand it. But then it clicks, and then you go, "Oh my god, that's absolutely genius." And the ending of it, because it means something else, but it's the same. The Ghost Stories is about 3. It's 3 ghost stories. It's about your man Nyman. I can't remember his first name, but is it Bill Nyman? Possibly, yeah. But he he's a skeptic, and he doesn't believe in ghosts, and he's going to is it Paul Whitehouse from the Fast Show? Is it Paul Whitehouse?
Yeah.
He's in it, and he goes to him, and he's a night watchman, and he tells him a story about what he's witnessed, and it goes into that story, and it's scary. And then it's got another one about this kid who basically he's having trouble, and he goes for a drive in the forest, and then suddenly something happens. I'll not tell you because it's pretty fucking good. There's an amazing bit in it. I can't tell you but there's just a bit in it, and he what his reaction to it is amazing. And then there's a third one, and it's just so good. It's got who played Bilbo Baggins? Martin Freeman's in it. Yeah, Martin Freeman's in it. And it's just so scary in an old school sort of way. Like it made me feel like a kid again, being told these ghost stories, because it was all like the way it was sort of the way it was sort of kind of shown and the way it was explained and everything, and it was interspersed with all these sightings. So he keeps on seeing these weird things himself, and then it's got this bit at the end, and it just blows everything out of the water, but it's got a deeper meaning behind it. And at the time, my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend, we were going to see it. She was like, "That was shit. I don't understand. That was a really bad end." I was really enjoying it until that ending, and I sat there and I was like, "I don't know." And then I went back and I thought about it, and I went, "Yeah, that's genius. That's absolutely genius." And then I wrote a massive article about it. But I would highly recommend it. But it's got a massive curveball at the end. So just be mindful, but it's so good, so good.
I love things that are so thought-provoking, and hours afterwards you're still thinking about it, like, oh my god.
Yeah,
I love that so much.
Well,
it's one of the reasons why horror works so well for audio, is because that all of the really bad stuff, nothing's more scary than your own imagination.
Exactly.
So when you're hearing it, it's like, some of the stuff that I get to do is brilliant. I get to really freak out.
Do you freak yourself out sometimes? Do you freak yourself?
I have done. It was one of the very, very early stories. I think it was like the second story that I did, and there was in it there was a description of it was the stories about a couple in the house and weird things happen, and it was the sound of like scratching at the door, and I had to, and because I was the narrator, I had this description of these elongated fingers and the nails coming underneath the door and like raking the floorboards, and just describing that scene kind of freaked me out, and I had to go to bed with the light on that night.
Out of curiosity, have you ever had to kind of turn down a script saying that I can't do this, it's just too unsettling for me?
I haven't turned anything down yet. There have been a few roles where, as I said earlier, I usually tend to do like a couple of takes where I've done it once and then I've had to turn off my mic and go, I cannot do that. I cannot do that again. But that's normally not necessarily for scary. It's actually, oh god, this conversation is going quite serious. We'll have to talk about something. I'll talk about something to make you laugh. But it's not, if I'm perfectly honest, it's normally to do with either an emotional response. So one character, it was heavily implied. I didn't actually have to talk about it, but it was a girl who I was playing, a young girl who had been raped. And it's the scene where she's talking about her experiences to her father. And I just had to kind of go, no. And when you're playing roles like that, you do have to, there is a responsibility there as well. So it was like, I did the scene and then I thought, I cannot do that again. I can't. So I just turned it off and I sent the file off and that was it. And there have been a couple of others. Obviously, I'm a mum. So there have been a couple of ones that involve children as well that have hit a little bit close to home. And it's a bit like... Or if I'm having to give a very emotional, when I'm performing or when I'm recording, if I'm having to kind of get myself worked up or give an emotional thing, like I'm crying or something, it's like, okay, I need to stop and walk away from this. But that's not necessarily being scared. That's more, I would say, an emotional response to the work that I'm doing. But I haven't turned anything down. But I do have to say, I do kind of get this very, very evil sense of smug satisfaction when people particularly respond to certain creature voices that I've done and gone, you freak me the fuck out. And it's like,
could you give a demonstration, please?
Well, some people get really, really weirded out by so I do the old grannies and stuff, and American kids. I do a lot of the kid voices, right? And it's like, hey, no, don't do that. Hey, look, Mom says we can go down to the basement where there's some spare candy. Should we go and do that? And or really kind of like creeping into people's ears. Oh God, what was it? There was one voice in particular that was just this one woman, and all she had to do is say like that. She had the one word repeated over and over again, or a phrase which was, "It's not so bad. It's not so bad."
Okay,
wow. We totally need to get you in our D&D game at some point.
And how are you?
Oh, I'm glad you're not my grandmother. No.
Who needs sleep?
Yes.
During a lot of this lockdown, where I've been working in various places in my job. So a lot of travel time, I have been obviously listening to No Sleep podcast, and it's quite a thing. 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning when you're putting on the show, and like you say, your imagination starts playing with you, and then there's a couple of times I've kind of I've pulled up. It's like, right, I don't want to get out of the car now. I don't feel it's safe. I feel quite worried for the day ahead, and it's like, I've gone into work a couple of times, and like you say, sometimes these stories do stick with you for a while. They do have a bit of an impact. They probably like, it was probably nothing even that would have really been to anyone else, but like you go and you're like, why is this still on my mind? And like there's times like someone's talking to me and I go, oh sorry, did you say something? And it's strange. And like I say, sitting in the car as well, especially when you're in a load of traffic and all of a sudden you've got about like a 50-meter gap in front of you and you've got cars beeping behind. It's like, oh shit, yes, carry on. And yeah, it's good that such a show can be that engaging, but at the same time, I've then had to restrict it to just listening to at home because I don't trust myself anymore in the car with it.
I think there's a lot of films out there that that kind of have the same effect. Once you've seen them, you kind of look at your surroundings a bit differently. Like I watched Train to Busan recently because I've never seen it before, and one of the best horror films I've ever seen, and I've seen my fair share of zombie films, and every time I get on a train now, even if it's just a short distance from here to Cardiff or here to London, as soon as I get on the train, I'm thinking, right, exit, somewhere to climb. You know, you just keep looking around. It's same with like high-rise buildings. I think after I took the kid's mum to see Attack the Block, every time now we go into like a hotel, it's like a high-rise building. She's looking around, looking at the doors, looking at the exit, thinking, what are you doing? She's like, exit strategy.
Do you know that there is actually a sequel to
It's
Train to
terrible.
Busan?
It's terrible.
I saw it a few weeks ago, and I was like, this is bad.
Hashtag Alive is a lot better and could be a direct sequel to Train to Busan, which is on Netflix now. And I encourage everybody here, if you've seen Train to Busan, go and watch Hashtag Alive when you get the chance, because it is another South Korean horror film, zombie, and it's just great. It's really, really great.
Are there any other I'm trying to think of second films that are either equal to or better than the first. Terminator 2, Aliens. And
The Dark Knight.
That's okay, I'll give you the Dark Knight.
I mean, Batman Begins. I absolutely love Batman Begins, but Dark Knight, I think, did it for me because the character portrayals were just so much more. You were so much more invested in most of these parts because, you know, from the first film you start learning about them, but in the second part you really get to see them in action, and also, you know, they gave Maggie Gyllenhaal the part of Rachel, so that definitely made that part a lot better.
I can't watch the new, as much as I like the new Batman, the Nolan Batman films. I can't take him seriously anymore because his voice has been parodied so much that that's all I hear is people taking the piss. So when he goes, "I'm Batman," and I'm just like,
"Why'd you want to kill me?"
Yeah, where is she?
Where is she?
I think because you know, I think that was one thing that they did address when they had Ben Affleck's Batman, because they gave him the modulator in his cowl that actually altered his voice, and I thought, that's actually quite a clever idea. Why didn't they do it? Of all the tech that was in the Dark Knight trilogy, why didn't they think, let's give him some touch and manipulate his voice, not just make him go, "Oh, you will kill me."
And we might have a Ben Affleck Batman again, which is good.
Yes,
makes me happy.
In the Flash.
Oh my god.
What was it?
Carry on.
No, go on. What, there was a going on there.
I don't know.
You didn't like him.
I'm among geeks here. This isn't gonna be. I'm about to hang myself. But I mean, I loved all three of the Christopher Nolan Batman films. Like, just loved them. But I've not seen any other Batman films since. I'm so sick of Batman as a whole. Like, and I used to be really into it.
Technically, it's not been like a solo Batman.
Yeah, it's not a solo
film. Batman v Superman, which was more Batman. Than
Didn't see it.
And then you had Suicide Squad, where he was literally in it for about 2 minutes, and then Justice League. Let's just hope the Snyder cut's better. Let's just say that.
I just haven't. I'm so not interested in superhero stuff anymore, which is crazy. And I think that's purely because there is so much of it. There's just too much.
The irony, because you were a cosplayer as well.
I know. I've not seen anything with Harley in. How insane's that, Matt? Like, she was my girl. Like,
do you know what?
I'm not interested though.
I think I've told you this before, but you were the first photograph I ever took at a convention.
Really?
Yes, your Harley Quinn was the first ever photograph I took at a convention.
I didn't think you'd taken any of my Harley, to be honest.
Whoa,
the only ones I remember you taking
confession.
of me were the Selena Kyle ones. Ironically, Dark Knight Rises stuff.
It was your Harley meets Selena Kyle, I think. Was it like? Did you?
No, that is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, you did a crossover.
Shit.
LSCC 2014.
No, that was MCM.
Was it MCM?
Yeah.
Was it?
That was MCM. That one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of cosplays, Erika's husband actually is quite a prolific cosplayer, really.
Oh, what does he cosplay as?
Well, I've seen there was a news article from some months ago that he was actually dressed as Captain America, and let's just be honest, that part did suit him pretty well. Not just for obviously his own family background, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I kind of started because I sort of started years ago by doing some Star Wars cosplay, and then he started and he does Captain America, Han Solo, and Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
And Matt, you're gonna
what's his name? Oh. Sorry.
What's his name? Patrick Klein. No, he's known as Captain. He's known as Captain Patman America. Or the Patman.
Okay.
Yeah, Patman.
But Matt, you're gonna like this because Erika shared with me yesterday. Probably this has got to be one of the greatest Star Wars stories you'll ever hear. And because I had to look at the photo again afterwards to think, oh, he's actually dressed as Han Solo. Right. So Matt, put it this way: if you ever had the chance to meet Carrie Fisher, how would your interaction go? Let's just put it that way.
Oh God, I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's just put it this way, all right? So, I don't think anyone could have been a better wife than Erika. Please tell the story because this is just so good.
Okay. This was my idea. So, Star Wars Celebration back in 2016, and we're booking our tickets and everything, and he books on to meet Mark Hamill, and he books on to meet Carrie Fisher, and I said to him, you got to go dressed as Han, and you got to go from Empire Strikes Back, and you got to try and get her to do the pose with the film poster, the pose right. with the gone with the wind pose.
Yeah.
And this was when we were booking our tickets. So this was like a year before Celebration. So anyway, Celebration comes and he's going to wear his Han Solo gear, and I was in queues to meet Ray Parker's Darth Maul, and he was in the queue literally in the next booth over, waiting to go and meet Carrie Fisher. And the way he tells it is brilliant. But if anyone doesn't know, my husband he's an American, and so he goes in there, and you only get like 30 seconds, and it's there, you shoot, and then you get kicked out. And he saunters in, and he's dressed in full Empire Strikes Back gear. I may be a bit biased, but looking incredibly handsome. And he kind of just turns on the smolder, and it's like, "Good morning, princess. You're looking very fine this morning." And she goes, "Hello." And he says, "Would you mind if I kissed you?" And she goes, "No." And they smooch, and they're smooching, and that is the photo that the photographer takes. The queue. So this is Carrie Fisher at Celebration. You can imagine the queue. The people who can see cheer loudly, and then all the people behind are like wondering, what is that cheer about? And then word gets around, and he's just kind of like wanders around with the photograph of him basically snogging Carrie Fisher.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I want to see this picture now.
Yeah, I know.
Let me see if I can do a little bit of wizardry here.
I'm sorry.
Can you see?
Oh my God, this is terrible quality on my screen.
Wow.
Get it, girl.
Can you send it over Skype? I can't see it.
Oh wow. That is.
So yes.
I think if I can, I'll copy a picture later on the chat, because when I got shown that photo, I was just like, wow.
That's impressive though.
He just commented. So that was him. I can show you these. So that's him with Mark Hamill.
Wow.
And then that's the frame photo. And this is him wearing an Indiana Jones hat. Come in and say hello, everyone.
Even cosplaying for a podcast.
Dance monkey dance.
Hello.
We named him after the dog.
You can't hear anything because I've nicked the headphones. Anyway,
That's all right.
Do you want to say hello quickly to everyone?
Hello quickly to everyone.
There you go. I just sorry about you meeting.
Sorry,
Fisher.
following direction there.
I have that very shirt, sir. I don't have the hat.
I have a lot of fun memories.
Just got to say, mate, you've got the best wife ever. Let's just put it that way. Who just went, go and see Carrie Fisher. Go for it.
This is murder me. She absolutely murdered me.
Overheard her telling this story, so I kind of lingered by the door. It's not exactly how it went. Some of the words were a little bit off there. I did say to her, do you mind if I ask for a kiss for my photo? She kind of looked over at me. She went, oh, yeah. I think it was just a 28-year-old cosplayer dressed as Han Solo asking to have a kiss for their photo. And she went for it. She went for it.
Lad.
If anyone was taken aback, it was me. But
wow,
yeah, I think I was shaking for at least 45 minutes after that, including like the 10 minutes it took me to find someone who could sell me like one of the really nice Mylar sleeves to pop the photo in straight away to make sure nothing happened to it. And I remember I was like, I need something this size. They looked at it. They were like, is that? Yeah. Are you? Yeah. And one of my best friends is actually her name is Tracy, and she cosplays Princess Leia. We do a lot of the Star Wars cosplay and charity events together. She saw the photo and she looked at me. She's like, "You dick." she had her photo earlier in the day, and she was wearing her Empire Strikes Back Leia outfit that she had made just like specially for Celebration. And I inadvertently one-upped her. So I was in the doghouse with my costume wife for some time. I think I probably still am, to be honest with you. But there we go.
What's the cosplay name, man? Again, so what's your cosplay called? What are you called?
Oh, I've got a couple accounts. I've got Captain Patman on Instagram is my general cosplay account, and then the Jones Boys UK for indie specific stuff. The indie community is special. It gets its own account.
You were named after the dog.
I got a lot of fond memories of that dog.
I love that line. I gotta found it.
Anyway, I will pass you back to the wife. Thanks for having me, guys.
No problems.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks, darling.
I'll stand that back up, shall I?
Right. No, it's all right.
I didn't do it.
We shall be back to our usual programming very shortly.
Yeah,
What was Ray Park like to meet?
What was Mark Hamill like to meet?
Ray Park.
Oh, Ray Park. Oh, yeah, he was pretty cool because I was telling him that I had told I was explaining that my husband was in another queue waiting to meet Carrie Fisher. And also Mark Hamill, and he said, "Why aren't you meeting them?" And I went, "Oh, because it's his thing. It's fine." And while Pat was waiting, he sent me like a selfie of him doing like a virtual high five, and said, "See if you can get Ray Park to do a high five back." So I said, "Would you mind? My husband's in the queue next door. Would you mind doing him another high five?" And so Ray Park did a virtual high five, and then sent it back. No, he was really lovely. He was like really kind of bouncy and cool and stuff. But then I also got to meet other Darth Maul, which was Sam Witwer. And again, I'm kind of can be a quite slightly shy, nervous person. Not that you would think, with obviously the way I'm wittering on right now.
Not wittering on.
But I was quite sort of like nervous about meeting him, and I was with Pat then, and Pat just blatantly introduced me and went, "This is my wife. She's a big fan, and she's also a voice actor." And I was like, and he was like, "Oh, you're a voice actor as well." And you kind of always get that thing when especially if you're meeting somebody else who does the same thing. There's always that little bit of like, "Yeah, right. Are you really, or are you just saying that?" But we started talking voice work. He asked me a bit about what I did, and then I was talking to him about techniques, and I asked him about how he produces certain sounds, and immediately I start getting like this one-to-one tuition from Sam Witwer about voice work, and he said, when I came back from Maul, I was doing the full episode, and I had to transition between the Maul when they first find him, and he's all like broken and stuff. And then by the end of the episode, I had to be this version of Maul that they were going through. And he said, so what I did was, because one of the things I do as a voice actor is I tend to physicalize my roles as much as I can, because if you compress your diaphragm, if you change this box where you produce the air, you can change the sound. So we were talking about that, and he said, "Oh yeah," I said, I gripped my throat and kind of constricted it all like this. So when I first started the episode, it was much more like that." And he said, and as I was recording, I relaxed my grip, and then he got down to the smooth Maul by the end of the episode, and he said it was those tiny things that he was doing, which was brilliant. So I basically nicked his technique and did that for my next role on No Sleep. So I got cast as this weird creature, and I went, you know what? I'm going to try Sam Witwer's technique, and I did this thing on the mic, and it was, yeah, it works. That's cool.
Nice.
Oh, Joe, talking about shows, I have seen it advertised on your page, and I've seen it a few other places. Obviously, with all the stuff that's going on, COVID, unfortunately, a lot of venues are under threat of closure. Places that have been open have been very restricted, not getting a lot of funds coming in. You are actually doing, and this is amazing, a 24-hour live stream at the Unbound Theatre in Aylesbury. So first off, how did you get involved in this? And second, how are you preparing to do 24 hours of broadcast?
Okay. The venue, the Unbound is the in-house theatre company. The venue is the Queen's Park Arts Centre, which Queen's Park. It was pretty much my second home. They do a variety of arts workshops, from like woodworking, pottery, music, dance, everything. I pretty much grew up there from a kid doing drama workshops, and then it kind of led on to my professional career from then. So I've been knocking around that place for 30 years. Venues are struggling. The in-house company, we've been producing a lot of audio work over the summer, and have been releasing, they managed to do 190 days of straight online free content. Just when, I remember when what's his face, Johnson made the announcement about, I think that, people shouldn't really go to the theatre back in March before lockdown happened. All of the theatres just immediately shut down, and my phone, I remember that night, it was the night before my birthday, and my phone just started going with emails going, we've cancelled this. I lost 6 months worth of work. I lost the work for the rest of the year.
Wow. Just
in a series of emails. And it was like one came through, and then another, and then another, and then another. And I just remember sitting there going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so a lot of the actors in the area kind of got together, and we've been producing a lot of online content. But the 24-hour show, yes, is going to be a live stream broadcast doing a variety of things. So Unbound does everything from comedy sketches to children's literature to sort of comedy podcasting to, even today I was at the theatre today doing Shakespeare, and also some Oscar Wilde. So for 24 hours there is going to be a series of performances being done as readings. So it will be the actors with their scripts, and then and cameras on us, and it will be broadcast worldwide on the wonder of Twitch, and that is over Halloween night. And lots of people very generously donating their time for that. The other thing that we've got even is over midnight, because obviously we'll be in different time zones for the broadcast, but for UK time over midnight, so between 11:45 and 12:15, we're doing Halloween tales. We're doing some scary tales. And one of the writers from No Sleep, Marcus Demander, whose name you may recognise, has generously donated a brand new story that I'll be reading. So I'll be doing one of my creepy grannies over on Halloween night for that. And then also, I believe S.H. Cooper, who's another one of our writers, has again allowed us to perform one of her stories as well. And then we've got other readings from Frankenstein and The Raven, and then a few other bits of poetry as well. So there's going to be a variety of things, and I'm also going to be hosting the whole event as well. So I'll be on coffee and Red Bull. So at some point on the second day I'll be performing some Shakespeare. So let's see how that goes on No Sleep. And then in the evening I'll be performing Oscar Wilde as well. So we'll see how I manage. So in terms of preparation, I don't know. Does 8 years of being a parent count?
Yes.
Very good.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Hibernation beforehand.
How's been the support for the entertainment and theatre industry from the government during COVID?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What's been support like, if any, from the government in terms of during COVID?
Well, there's been this 1.5 billion pound magic money that's there to support everybody, but no one's seen a penny of it.
No. Okay.
Fell behind the sofa.
It's meant to have been given to various either the councils or something to then give out to the organisation. This was announced way back in July. No one's received any of it yet, and the biggest thing has been, yes, you can open. Oh no, you can't. We want you open. Go back to work. No, you can't. And the thing that's been the real kick in the teeth, especially over this last week, has been the would just get a proper job instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like retrain.
Oh.
Yes, retrain. Oh. And funnily enough, loads of people I know have gone on to the government website, gone on to the I need to retrain option, and you fill in all of your things, and it says, you like working in the arts and you're a creative imaginative person, and you're good with people. Have you considered a career as an actor?
Oh wow! Have you followed it up?
Sounds like a real opportunity.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I just need more training instead. So it's been there is a wonderful, if I'm allowed to publicize more stuff, there is a wonderful charity. Well, there is Acting for Others, there is the Theatre Support Fund, and there is a Fleabag charity, and they have all come together under the banner of the West End, but they are supporting theatre artists and anyone who works in theatre, front of house, box office, stage management, actors, writers, designers, anyone who works in the theatrical industry can apply to them for help. And it's the Theatre Support Fund, and all of the West End theatres have come up, have allowed their logos to be used to create a beautiful banner, which is "The Show Must Go On." So it's the different letters from the various famous West End shows, and you can get T-shirts and pencils and mugs and things, and it's just that cry of "The show must go on." And so far, I think they started in May or June, and they've raised something like over 30 grand.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
At least, and then people have been using that as well.
Can I just say, with regard to what has been said, and I saw that briefly the other day. To be honest, I avoid most of the news because it's depressing as fuck. But but one of the things that occurred to me with that is like I'm a freelance artist, and you know, I'm thankfully still able to do what I do, but it's one of those things of, without theatre, without film, without all of this other stuff, how the hell is everyone who's working at Tesco's or working a job that they absolutely hate, how are they going to get through their evenings and go back to work in the morning without that entertainment? Like, art is more important in modern society than people seem to think.
Yeah.
It lifts spirits, right? So, you know, if Netflix was to shut down and Amazon was to shut down and all of this easy to access entertainment was to shut off,
I mean, for all
no one would be getting up to go to work in the morning, no matter what they were doing.
I'm probably going to get this wrong, but for all of the recent Churchillian rhetoric that's been going on, was it Churchill there's a famous quote about, you know, if, you know, someone saying about getting rid of the arts, and he said, well, if we do that, what are we fighting for?
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
Actually, you're right. You're right.
And
that's ironic.
Albert Einstein as well said, you know, art and imagination are the most important things, and for science and things. And if you can't imagine solutions to problems, if you're only kind of stuck in a certain formula, if you can't use the imagination to create new methods and new discoveries and new technologies, then we're all screwed basically. So
politicians have got an imagination. They imagined themselves getting a £3,000 pay rise. So
is that imagining or is that more reality?
Awesome.
It's an Edgar Allan Poe reality.
But
I was talking to Neil Asher a couple of years ago about science fiction and science. And he said, like, they are completely separate, but one inspires the other and vice versa. And in many ways, we could not have the technology and science that we have today were it not for the scientists going, I want to make that.
I mean, you look at something like Star Trek.
Exactly.
You look at something like Star Trek, where you have, you know, the faces appear up on the big screen in front of them and they're talking across galaxies. Well, you know, what are we doing now? I'm talking to my television, essentially.
Automatic doors
Not
as
sure
well.
using Zoom, but...
they might get a bit of a dodgy connection in the Delta Quadrant. Who knows? But all of this stuff, science fiction is basically the technology of tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That sounds a very Tony Stark thing to say, doesn't it?
Yeah, you need to raise your arms, and there needs to be an explosion going on behind you.
Yeah.
Star Trek has given a lot to us. I mean, you look at the Next Generation. I mean, a couple of years later, we've got touchscreen. You know, we've got pads. We've got what are they? Android tablets. We've got these things ready available. Now, if we can kind of further that with Gene Roddenberry's work to better ourselves and do away with things like, you know, money and, you know, things where it's more of a trade-off than anything else.
We discussed this in one of the podcasts, I think, once, where I was talking about if you could get replicators, and you could get something like replicators, and you could get free power, so like, you know, energy was free, then you know, you wouldn't need, people could literally work to better humanity instead of working to pay bills, because you wouldn't have to worry about food, and you wouldn't have to worry about energy. But you know, the energy thing, as much as they're looking at, is nuclear fusion. Is it nuclear fusion?
Fission.
Fission.
So that's like fusion. Yeah,
fusion, yeah, looking at fusion, yeah. Which they sort of think they can do, but it's how efficient is it? Yeah,
the power you punch into nuclear fusion at the moment is less than what you get out. Basically, ITER in France is going to be the next stage of nuclear fusion. Basically, they want to get that low hum of power where they punch in a little power, and then basically it just self-maintains fusion, and it's just constantly punching out.
Yeah, so
a
basically,
continuous stream of energy.
If they can do that, then you know, your quid's in. But it's not looking like it's going to be in our lifetime. So
it is.
Really, you reckon?
I suspect in 20, 30 years we will have working fusion reactors.
Wow, that's insane, man.
Actually, one thing I will add, there's a tale about Professor Stephen Hawking visiting the Star Trek studios, and he was being shown around, and then he kind of stopped, and then he started typing away on his keypad. And so they waited, and then he kind of pointed at that and said, "I'm working on one of them," and he's pointing at the warp core. So it is a case of like a science fiction does inspire this.
Well, he's talking about wormholes, wasn't it? So he sort of the possibility of wormholes is sort of...
His book on wormholes was fantastic. If you ever get the chance to read it, please do so.
Yeah. Okay, as we're talking about science fiction, and we've talked about Star Wars so many times, but as we have a Star Wars super fan,
round one,
and I believe JonJo's brought you on for some nefarious purpose to try and prove me wrong.
I don't know if it's
going
to
to the chase.
that way.
Did you like The Last Jedi? I think that's what Matt wants to know.
Well, first off, what did you think of Rogue One?
I was expecting this because I listened to your episode last week, and this seems to be your make or break thing. Yeah, loved it.
That's good. That's okay. You can carry on talking now. I'm not going to rage quit this podcast. Okay. So what? Go on. Then. I'm assuming that the Last Jedi was to your liking more than it was probably to my liking. If that's the case, why?
Because I like all the Star Wars.
Oh,
what? You can't have that. I like all the Star Wars. I didn't hate it.
I like all the Star Wars.
I know, but
there are problems with bits of them. Yeah, there are scenes in The Last Jedi that I kind of go, yeah, or I wish they'd done
like
differently.
Like what?
Mary
Poppins.
Now, Mary Poppins, I kind of think was quite an interesting one because I think they were kind of trying to bring in more of the EU awakening of the Force within Leia for that.
It didn't. The problem you have with that is they didn't. What's the word?
Explain
it at all. Yeah, there was no sort. It was literally she just woke up and she was full on Jedi. Which they had to fix in the next one. That was my issue with it because they had to fix it.
I think they had a lot of things because they also had an actress who was quite ill at the time when she filmed it, and then of course they sadly lost her for the third. So I think as a director, you're having to make decisions accommodating decisions all the time, and sometimes they can't always just be covered with a simple plot fix, unfortunately. So things are left open, and whether or not that enhances the film or not, but still, I remember seeing that moment and kind of going, oh, because I think it opened up a lot of potential that we had been promised, and unfortunately that potential wasn't necessarily realized in the storyline, but the promise or the hint of it was there, and that kind of what excited me about that moment. But I can see how it would disappoint a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I at the time was, I wouldn't say furious. I was just so upset about it. I didn't hate, as much as I say, I moan about it. I didn't hate The Last Jedi. I just didn't think it was on a par with any of the other ones. There was a few I didn't like the way Luke was, the way Luke was. I didn't like the Leia thing at all, because there was no, they didn't explain why it was happening. But I'm kind of glad that she didn't die. Now, I thought she was going to die, and that would have been a good end to her as a character. But I'm kind of glad they carried her on into the next one, because it gave a very emotional, like I went to see it with my sister, my brother, my mum, and my sister's husband, and all of us, bar my mother, who was fast asleep because she's just not into that sort of thing, we're crying our eyes out and stuff. It's just like, that our childhoods literally just ended. But I'm glad she was there at the end, and so that's the one thing that makes me sort of. It's not like I have my peace with that moment in The Last Jedi, but at least she wasn't killed, and I'm kind of glad about that. I just, the fact that the third film fixed parts of the second one makes me
they weren't able to tell the story that they originally wanted to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. I think whatever potential there might have been in The Last Jedi was, they had to go a different way, really. So the two films, in some ways, it's an impossible task to try and marry them up as coherently as one continuous story arc where you have the full cast and everything, where you're able to do that. I think that sometimes it's a bit difficult. And that it is awkward. I think if I'm honest about if I'm taking The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker together, is I find there's an awkwardness about them. But it's still Star Wars, and it's Star Wars for a new generation. Each trilogy. So I grew up with the originals. There's a bit of an age difference between my husband and I. He grew up with the prequels. Which when they first come out, I was very kind of like, what have you done? And I've kind of mellowed in my old age, and I love them now. And also seeing them through my kids' eyes. And my kids love the new stuff. And it should be for them. It should be for them.
Yeah, I think with the new trilogy, that was the big thing, because they were obviously trying to pay homage to obviously everything that had been done before. And 7, 8, and 9 was supposed to be set to the three main actors. So episode 7 was Han Solo's movie. That was Harrison Ford's send-off, which, that went really well. Episode 8 was Luke Skywalker's practically his send-off as well. And then episode 9 was supposed to be for Carrie Fisher. And like we say, that is one thing that, unfortunately, we were never going to see due to her passing. But I reckon, could you imagine if we'd had an episode 9 that was focused on her as much as, say, like
being a more powerful Jedi Master? Yeah. Because I think we get hints. I think we get hints of it, that she was meant to become Rey's mentor. She was meant to be sort of start to embrace her own Force sensitivity. If you're looking at the story with her son, that emotional link that you have in the moment just before the Mary Poppins scenes, where you've got that link that they do refer back to when she appears to her son in Rise of Skywalker, but you've got that link where his finger's on the button. Is he going to do it? Is he not? And it's somebody else who kind of shoots it in, and that decision is taken away from him.
And I've got to say, it does. Or I was going to say, it plays into one of my favourite things in not just Star Wars. And Matt, I'm going to say there is one part of Rise of Skywalker I've got to say is probably my favourite in the whole film series altogether. Just that moment after Leia has passed, Kylo acknowledges it. He can feel her presence has gone, and then just all of a sudden, you've got Han Solo behind him, and at that point, I was just like, my God,
Han Solo coming back was a massive,
And you know, it was one of the things that sometimes you can kind of think, oh, you know, like you hear about spoilers, you hear about, and that was something I was like, I was not expecting it, and then like your heart sinks because it's like, you know, unfortunately you couldn't have Carrie Fisher to deliver what probably that could have probably been her part. That would have been her talking to her son at that point. But obviously, as she is no longer with us, you had Han Solo there, and it was like wow, this is heart wrenching almost, because it's like, you know, the emotional twist that's just suddenly hit you from the passing of Leia, and now you've got Ren kind of, you know, he's coming to terms with everything he's done. He's, in a way, he's making peace with his family in that moment, and it's you know, it kicks your heart, really, like for well, it just done me. I was just like, wow, that's
yeah, it was definitely emotional. So I haven't watched. I've only watched the last Jedi once, because I was just so sort of, you know, put off by it that I was just like, I don't know if I want to watch it again. But I kind of made my peace with it because of the Rise of Skywalker, because it was such a good sort of swan song to the entire sort of franchise, effectively.
Maybe I should see it then.
Yeah, it's just
watch it again.
I've not seen the last one.
Seriously,
really I saw the Last Jedi and I was like, oh, I can't be fucked with this anymore. This is I had to tap out. I was so upset.
It's worth watching. Else, it like honestly, it's like I went into it kind of going, I really have no sort of I'm just gonna watch it because it's the last one, and it proper got me in the feels. Like, there's so many parts in it which literally just, you know, especially as for myself who grew up in the 80s and stuff watching the originals and things, that it literally just is the end of it's the end of the franchise, and there's so many parts in it, and you're just like, oh my god. And like I was crying by then. I was proper emotional about it at the end and stuff. I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll make my
only
peace
thing
with
with the Rise of Skywalker is it should have been 2 films.
Yes,
I think it should have been 2 films because the first half felt very rushed.
I think well, a lot of it was recycled, wasn't it, from the Colin Trevorrow script? There was bits. I know it wasn't a complete like an overhaul, but they did take certain elements. Yeah. And if you've read the script for what would have been Episode 9, Duel of the Fates.
Is that the Duel of the Fates?
Yes.
Yeah,
it is
I want to read it. I've seen some of the artwork for it, and I'm kind of like, oh.
There's a video on YouTube from a YouTuber called Mr. Sunday Movies, and they've done this 8-minute animation of it, and you know, it's played for a little bit for laughs, but when you actually watch it and you see like the story beats, you see what they were trying to do with it, and you think, wow, okay, this could have been such a different film. This could have been such a different conclusion. There are certain bits and pieces that are still the same. There are a few elements that still you know, same beat for beat in a way, but it is 90% a completely different movie, and the focus on it obviously keeps Leia focused, because obviously this was written before her passing, before Carrie Fisher's passing, so they still had her in mind for the part. And it's one of the things that, as I was watching it, it just made me think, wow, you know, what we had and what we could have had are 2 completely different, you know, pieces of work, 2 completely different pieces of art. And the thing is, it made me realize as well, as much as I would have probably enjoyed Duel of the Fates more, it made me think, well, hang on, as we've learnt from any fan base, any society, for what I might like, someone else might not, and for what I don't like myself, someone will love, and that's, you know, that's always going to be the way.
This is where the fans come. This is where the fans come in, though. I mean, there's a scene in Rise of Skywalker, the ending scene. Matt will probably know what I'm on about now, where a editor has gone into that scene and improved it with certain ghosts who appear at the end. The one I'm on about now, Pete. And it's that kind of scene where if they had just thought about how could we make this more of an emotional thing rather than this is how it's supposed to play out. It's so hard not to drop spoilers for people who haven't seen it, and I'm trying to be as respectful as I can. Where it's that moment of I'll say this because it won't give him anything, catching the lightsaber, and then you have all the Force ghosts doing what they do. And it's that scene, I thought, if that was in the original theatrical release, if they'd thought further to put that in, it would have made the scene, it would have given a better impact on the scene to what Rey says. And it's all down to fans. What what they want to put into it, what could have been made better or could have been improved a bit more. Rise of Skywalker, I enjoyed it for what it was. I guess Last Jedi, I kind of wish they'd done Luke a bit better than what was done to him. Because I mean, all the hype in Force Awakens of the lightsaber, Maz Kanata, saying this was Luke's lightsaber, and everybody in the background going, "Oh, your father used it to kill many younglings," and he just takes it off Rey and throws it directly behind him, and thinking, why?
Yeah, that really frustrated me. It's just.
Do you not find that a mirror from Return of the Jedi, though?
Why is that? What happened? What's the mirror?
Yoda.
No,
what does Yoda do?
It's no. Palpatine going after Luke in Return of the Jedi. He stands up and he throws his lightsaber away. In Return of the Jedi, he throws his lightsaber away.
But the throwing the lightsaber away was to basically show that he wasn't going to let his anger, his hate, get the better of him. In this, Matt, it was more of I don't care. I've thrown my toys out of the pram. I don't want anything to do with the Jedi anymore.
See, I didn't see it that way. I saw it as like a very deliberate, almost symbolic reflection of that as an older man, he has become jaded with everything, and again it's the temptation of the dark side. He is there being forced by Palpatine to either fight or something, and that's the temptation, is to fight, to give into his anger. So in Return of the Jedi, he throws his lightsaber away and says, this is not who I'm going to be. When Rey offers him the lightsaber again, it brings all of that back, and I just kind of took when I saw it was like, that's exactly who he was in Return of the Jedi. It's a callback, it's a flashback to him in Return of the Jedi, and he's rejecting it. He is rejecting that, essentially that temptation of the dark side, and everything is there because this is what he is. He's shut himself off from the Force. He doesn't want that anymore.
Then why did he keep the book? Why did he keep the books? Why did he, when he goes to burn the oh God, what was it? Like a...
he's on an island with people he can't communicate with, and that's the only reading material.
Actually, one thing
he's guilty as soon as he doesn't want to destroy it. It's Yoda who destroys it.
It's Yoda destroys it. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of Yoda,
I think the thing is, lightsabers are much more symbolic of the fighting and the conflict. Whereas the books, the Jedi Code, all of the other stuff, it's very much, although the fighting's kind of in there, and it's their history and everything. The weapon itself is the problem.
But you don't want the weapon.
Also, it kind of harkens back to Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, where the first thing he says to Luke is, "War does not make one great."
Your weapons, you will not need them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
could buy into that. I fully understand
Luke
what you're saying.
Yoda.
No, because Yoda's not that sort of thing about Luke, and I could understand if he had turned into a sort of thoughtful, sort of like, talking in riddles and being sort of, like Yoda or like Obi-Wan, but he wasn't. It felt to me like he was somebody who literally had run away and didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore, and it was just the way he acted that just didn't it didn't sit right with me. And I understand what you're saying. There is similarities to those parts, from Empire and Jedi, but for me, watching that, it was like a disrespect sort of thing, and it just sort of it just felt wrong, especially to me as a fan. I was just like, I know, I appreciate it's not up to me how Luke should be, but I just didn't see him being that, pathetic. He became better at the end and stuff, but it was just sort of like, at that time I was just like, I just don't buy it. it doesn't do it, and it ruined it for me, because Luke is your childhood hero. He's somebody for a little boy who's sort of growing up. Luke Skywalker is, and then he's this sort of he gets like a minute in the first film, and in the second one he's just this grumpy old man, and you're just like, but this isn't the Luke who I looked up to and grew up with. And
Obi-Wan Kenobi's a grumpy old man. Yoda's a grumpy old man.
But
the kids who grew up with Anakin as the hero of the Clone Wars, I've seen kids who absolutely adore Anakin because they've seen the cartoon, and it's like, oh my god, you have no idea who he becomes yet, have you?
Oh, but that's the beauty of it.
The
heartbreak is what makes Star Wars.
What shall we do?
Yeah.
The thing is, Obi-Wan isn't grumpy, he's stoic, and it's the same with Yoda. Yoda sort of isn't overly. The only time he gets grumpy, Yoda gets grumpy is when he's trying to take something from.
I was going to say is when he's fighting R2.
Yeah, when he's fighting R2. Other than that, he's generally quite stoic. Whereas Luke isn't. He is very sort of he is grumpy.
Yeah, but I think you couldn't really have. You couldn't have Luke do the same as a Yoda. Luke had to have his own path, And to me, for him to, reject the Jedi way, for him to, and I even said this before, that he calls the lightsaber a laser sword. That's my way of seeing that. It's him trying to say, look, I don't want anything to do with Jedi. I'm not even going to address the weapon by its actual name. I will just call it a laser sword. And I just thought
that's what Obi-Wan calls it in A New Hope.
Yeah.
Again, another callback.
Yeah, I like I said, I didn't hate it, and I also appreciate.
He's kind of a bit jaded because he is kind of single-handedly responsible for pretty much the destruction of the Jedi and the destruction of his sisters and his brother-in-law's marriage, and that's got to weigh a bit heavily on you.
I know,
really.
But the other two as well. But you think it's that Obi-Wan basically saw the end of the Jedi Order and the Old Republic.
Yeah, but he wasn't responsible for it.
I know, but he Yoda was sort of for not having the foresight and stuff. So they both went through very traumatic times.
Yeah, they both went through.
You could argue more traumatic than what Luke's been through and stuff. With what happened. And the sheer loss of life.
Yoda failed to defeat Darth Sidious and therefore brought about the Empire. So imagine Yoda's feeling a bit,
Yeah, exactly. And they still were able to be a bit more sort of cool about, their life, and instead of I'm going to get myself some green milk. And
I would argue though that Obi-Wan, Yoda, all of those who were around when they were surrounded by other Jedi. Granted, not as much as say the Old Republic era and where most my knowledge comes from, but they were surrounded by others who held their beliefs, who had one another to lean on in hard times. For them, I feel like, and I've said this a moment ago, but I feel like for them it's more about heartbreak and coming to terms with all that has happened, whereas with Luke, he's sort of on his own, and I feel like there's more guilt, there's more weight on his shoulders. Look what happens when you put someone into a Jedi, into the boots of a Jedi, and say you're the chosen one. All of this is on you.
And look what happens. Expected to rebuild the Jedi Order.
And to not necessarily have built really good relationships with others who are like you. So I mean, there's that. He doesn't have relatability with others in the films, for example, like Han and Leia, and he doesn't. Although she's his sister, I mean, he fucking made out with her at one point. Like, come on, that's got to fuck you up a bit too. Remember,
and he'll always have that nagging doubt: am I going to be the next Darth Vader? Am I going to?
Yes, and that, of course, and that.
But you got to think though, in Luke's arc, especially when you look back from Episode 4, he starts off living with his aunt and uncle. He loses them because they obviously get killed. He then finds out, his father is like he's the big evil of the galaxy.
Well, he loses Obi-Wan as well first as well.
Yeah, he loses Obi-Wan, but then he doesn't really know Obi-Wan too well. So that was like because they quickly went, no, Obi-Wan. It's like, oh yes, Obi-Wan died, didn't he? Oh yes. But he then finds out his dad is the big evil, and then when he starts connecting to his dad, oh no, his dad's now dead. Oh, but he has his sister, and his sister and his best friend then have a child. And what's he do? He fucks up the relationship with his nephew because even though he senses that there is darkness in him, he basically then causes that darkness to fester outward, and he basically is the tipping point that made Kylo Ren go from staying with the Jedi to making him think, well, actually, no, I'm going to go off on my own thing, and
I would be pissed off and grumpy after all that, but the thing is, to me, Luke just doesn't have that level of connection with the people around him. He doesn't have the social skills that others would have developed.
Well, we see.
Does that make sense?
His best relationship is with a droid. His best relationship is with R2D2. So
Exactly.
but I think that's what makes it worse as well, because he doesn't really do well with human interaction. His best friend is literally a thing that just goes.
Worst
literally, like, he got completely thrown into this as an adult as well, mind. Like, for example, with Anakin, he was obviously a child. For most Jedi, they would have been children. So it's like, I feel like you can't really compare Luke's path with any of the other Jedi before him, because he was pretty much he's like considered the last Jedi, like the only one, or like, he has the chosen title with no one really around him to properly support him through that. Does that? I don't know. Yeah, that's the impression I always got, anyways.
One question I'm sorry, Matt. One question I'm still waiting for it to be answered, and how the hell did Maz Kanata get hold of that lightsaber?
Well, that's an interesting story.
It's never answered though. It's never said, oh, by the way, I found this. Did you find a hand with it? It's one of those questions I want answered.
Quite a good little funny flashback, couldn't it? Like she finds it, but the hand is still gripped onto the light, so she has to shake it to throw the hand off.
I'm hoping.
Wasn't that the original beginning? Am I making this up? I'm sure I've read this somewhere, and I'm sure I've seen concept artwork for this of a lightsaber, like a lightsaber spinning through space or something.
That was the first concept art. Yeah, there was a concept picture, and it was literally Luke's hand holding onto the lightsaber, and that's a shame, because I think that would have been quite a powerful image to have started with, and then just see that someone picks it up, and then all of a sudden, like hour and a half into the film, Maz Kanata goes, "Yes, I found this. Here's the lightsaber."
Yeah, but given where it was falling, which is down into the depths of Cloud City, and then into a gas giant.
Well, that's it, isn't it? You're gas farming on a gas giant. It's just like, there's no way you can get that back unless that you got sucked into one of the one of the sort of vents, I guess, like Luke did when he fell down. But
so I'm hoping it gets explained with another incredible Star Wars series.
That'll get its own spin-off film.
Shush you. I'm hoping Din Djarin has got some kind of pull in this, because obviously with Mandalorian season 2 coming up now, if we get some kind of explanation through that series how Maz gets hold of Luke's lightsaber.
I mean, it could have ended up anywhere in Cloud City, and it was being evacuated at the same time. So one of Lando's associates, was he all that respectable? How many smugglers were lurking around Cloud City at the time? It's like, oh, I'm going to grab all of this stuff. And it's like, oh, yeah.
I will say, with Star Wars being Star Wars, I have never had any hate for the original, for the prequels. Everybody has raged against them, and I, as much as
until the latest ones came out,
I didn't sort of hate them. I enjoyed them. I thought some of the best lightsaber battles we've had were some of the original, the Darth Maul, and I've said this numerous times, the Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn, Duel of Fates, lightsaber battle's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So good. Darth Maul's an amazing bad guy, possibly better than Darth Vader, at some points and stuff. So good. And I think, because of the over-reliance in CGI and stuff, Lucas got crucified, and it was just too easy to sort of kind of pick fun at the, Jar Jar. And we've got to think about it this way. It's like, we grew up with teddy bears space teddy bears who basically took on an empire. Like there's that Family Guy episode where they basically start, was it Peter Griffin shoots some of the guards and he says this film is too cute. He start digging your own graves, and he makes them dig their own graves with their helmets and stuff, because like obviously teddy bears. But that's not an issue for us. Wicked's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. So
Matt's gone.
Matt's
gone.
Say shit.
Wow,
the stream is broken as well.
So that could be fun.
I think we're back. We're back. Sorry, I was saying it's ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous. So it's just so. But like I said, I don't have any hits.
I love the prequels. I prefer. They're my favourites.
The prequels.
I can't help that.
The prequels have got a good lot of merit to them, and to a degree, you can understand the problems that people have with it. But you got to remember as well that the prequels had a coherent story. It knew what it was doing from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm,
it was telling you how a young Anakin became Darth Vader. That was its main focus from beginning to end. You knew that what was going to happen. Everything that happened in between, that's an issue. That's an issue that you take up on yourself. But you got to say that the prequels, out of all three trilogies, the prequels had the most clear-cut story. They knew where they were going from beginning to end.
I disagree. They had an intention. They absolutely fluffed the execution. The entire point is, like, Anakin becomes Darth Vader due to Machiavellian manipulations by the Emperor.
I'm not saying that the method is perfect.
The two films, the Emperor's kind of going, oh, yes, I was trying to send assassins to kill off Padme. Fine, yep, okay, can see why. And then Anakin learns that the to-be Emperor was the person doing that. And then, I can save her. Really? You can? Yeah, honest. What? That was the entire manipulation, and I just thought, no. I'm sorry, no. Basically,
I think there's a lot more to it than that.
No, was there?
Because this is the thing, right? For me, anyway, and this is why I love the prequels, and this is why I love Star Wars, is that it doesn't spoon feed its audience. You are there, you are to interpret it as you wish, but there are certainly things that are there that aren't obvious, that you are meant to pick up on, even if it's not during the viewing of it, even if it's afterwards when you're sat thinking about what's gone down. There are things that are not spoon-fed, that are not obvious, and a lot of people actually miss. And I think a lot of that actually plays into it. If it was more obvious, maybe more people would perhaps enjoy the prequels, but there are certain things that just sort of slip the net, and
I think it was just a bit of a fad to sort of hate on the Phantom Menace and stuff, and it's just like I don't enjoy it. Like I remember every moment, every Star Wars film I've watched, from the originals through to the newer ones, to remastered versions of, to the newest ones, and not one point have I, even The Last Jedi, I didn't go out hating a film. I still enjoyed parts of it, and still, it was still Star Wars. And I think my friend said to me when he was trying to persuade me, because he was the same, he wasn't overly keen on The Last Jedi, but he says, look man, you gotta understand, these are kids films. These aren't for you, they're for kids. And as much as you want these things to be extensions of your own sort of your own childhood, they're not. They're the start of somebody else's childhood, and you've just got to accept that. So these are kids films, these are not adult films, and
I would say they're more family films, to be fair. Which is slightly more nuanced.
I think there are undertones and things that are absolutely adult, though. So I would agree that they are family films. There's something that everyone can take away from them. But just to quickly, because I realised I didn't really actually mention anything a moment ago when I said that there's things that people miss. One thing that really, really gets on my tits is when people are like, oh, Leia died of a broken heart. No, you can't. No. You have to read into that whole thing. In my personal opinion, Palpatine killed her.
Palpatine killed her.
Thank you. Wow, you're one of the few people that I've met who actually gets that. Thank you.
When Vader's on the train, he says, "Is Padme safe?" And
yes.
you can look in his face. He goes, "In your anger, you killed her." And he goes, "No, she was still alive. I felt it." And as soon as he says no, you can see the grin and the smile on Palpatine's face.
How did he even know?
Through. He was
yes.
He did it. Come on,
he did it.
He did it.
I thought that was like the major sort of open secret fan theory about what happens. Is that
you
read
into it. You watch them and you read into it, man. It's there. It's all there.
No,
all
that's
of
what I'm
it's
saying.
there.
I thought that was like the open sort of consensus that's what happened.
See, no, my friends disagree. Well, they don't disagree, but they never thought that, and they always continue to think that she would die of a broken heart. And until I told them that, they were like, "Oh."
Palpatine killed her. I mean, if Jedi's can
create
basically
life.
Palpatine created Anakin. Let's say that outright. The words midi-chlorian as well is mentioned, I think, only in Phantom Menace, and then never fucking uttered ever again. He was four. She gave birth to him again. Okay, Palpatine created life. Palpatine created Anakin Skywalker because he needed a dip to the scales of things that were happening. He needed an ace in the deck that he could play at any time, and he played Anakin really well over the years.
I'm intrigued by what you're saying about he created Anakin. I mean, I totally believe that it's as it was said, he was a creation of the Force, just as I think they say Yoda is as well. And yeah, he totally is there to tip the scales and bring balance, which is actually what he does. As bad as that is.
There's been a discussion, I think it's for years now, that Palpatine kind of what's the words to use? It's so hard to get the right words in. The same way he took life from Padme, he was able to take the life from Padme. He was able to create life with Anakin through the teachers of his Sith Lord of Darth Plagueis. He was able to teach Palpatine so much of the ways of the dark side that he was able to create, without even knowing it, create life, and didn't even realize Anakin was that powerful until he first meets him on Naboo, and he says, "We shall watch your progress, with your progress with great interest," because he knows that you're the one I've been looking for.
Oh shit! I had never. Okay, this is new to me.
And obviously, it goes on. It goes further and further and further. That's when he starts to. I'd like to say he infects Anakin, where Obi-Wan is trying to show him, this is the way there's a Jedi, these feelings, etc., etc.
Sowing the seeds.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's Mace. I know I'm going to get hate for this, but I couldn't give a shit. It's Mace Windu that kind of pushes him over the edge.
Yeah,
I
would agree with that.
Make that kill. Because Anakin's there. He knows he has to be tried. This is not the Jedi way. Yet, a while ago you took off the head of somebody else, and that wasn't the Jedi way. And once again, influence. It's
also not the Jedi way to be on the council and not be a master.
Exactly.
So yeah, but Mace Windu's a hypocrite.
It's all to do with It's all to do with influence. Palpatine's influence over Anakin, even though Anakin not knowing it, because he's had Obi-Wan as a brother. He was his brother. He's never had the father figure, and he's always seen Palpatine as the father figure, the father he never had. Whereas Obi-Wan was his brother in arms. He was his master.
Yeah.
So obviously, if your brother is telling you, "Oh, don't do this," but your father figure is trying to help you. He's telling you exactly. Yeah, he's telling you what you need to hear. He's showing you what you need to get your goals without realizing you're working to his goals instead. It's a really careful double-edged sword, especially through all the three prequel films, But yeah, Palpatine through this entire, through Star Wars, everybody thinks, oh, it's Anakin's journey. It's Anakin's. I, from the very beginning, always thought it's always been about Palpatine.
Oh yeah, he's the star of Star Wars.
He's big bad.
This is something I've literally just kind of popped into my head, so I may not have thought this through kind of carefully enough. But just as you guys were talking, then it suddenly struck me that the timeline may be a bit off then. But if he's got young Anakin, and also we know the timeline of when Attack of the Clones and finding the cloning facility and everything, do you think Palpatine may have started cloning earlier as a sort of backup in case Anakin went tits up?
Oh God, yes.
Oh wow!
Because of Master Cypher Diaz putting in that order for a clone army.
So if Anakin didn't work out, and because in Rise of Skywalker, I'm trying to remember the scene, and I may be remembering it wrong, but there's a lot of those chambers, and there's like failed attempts, should we say,
yes.
of previous incarnations. So do we think that he might have started that a lot earlier? And so as he's playing the long game, so he's got this, he's managed to create his own experiment. He's a bit like Frankenstein,
he's
really.
Master of the long game.
Experiments.
Yes.
When would they have started?
God.
How early could they have started? And was Anakin like a freak success when he was able to use the Force? So he's got to find this kid, I'm wittering on like crazy now because I've literally this has just come into my head as
you're blowing my mind, honestly. I hadn't even thought of that.
Blown.
I thought I read into this.
You're going to have to watch The Rise of Skywalker now. You're going to have to watch it.
Yeah, so I'm just like wondering how long have these pieces kind of been put in place? Because I don't want to say too much because spoilers.
Just so you guys know, I heard all the spoilers before the film even came out, and that's how I decided I could not be asked to watch it. Just so you know.
You should watch it, though. You should watch it. You should watch it.
So don't worry about spoilers on my behalf because I've probably heard them.
with Anakin, I don't think Palpatine knew he succeeded until he first met Anakin on Naboo. Because if he'd had known that he created life, obviously, midichlorians, and his the Force is strong in Anakin, highest midichlorian count, more than Yoda's. You'd have thought he would have sensed Anakin when he was born, but he didn't. So there's more going on there than any of us kind of know. So the cloning, I think it must have started way before. I think just after he'd tried to create Anakin Skywalker. So I think from like that going forward, it must have started. Because I can't remember how long ago in Attack of the Clones it said on Camino that Master Cypher Diaz put in the order for a clone army. I can't remember how long.
10 years, pretty much. So it's like Cypher Diaz's mission is happening almost concurrently with the events of Phantom Menace, or just afterwards, because there's a 10-year gap between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Right.
It's something like that. Am I getting that timeline wrong? I've got a feeling that it's Cypher Diaz when they're on the Camino. It's like Cypher Diaz 10 years ago.
And Anakin is 10 in
Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
It's about 9.
Getting all of the titles
in
mixed
Phantom
up.
Menace, and then 19.
That sounds about right.
I think
something like that. Yeah.
I feel bad for Hayden Christensen because I think he gets a bad rap as well. I don't mind.
I know.
I think
Okay. On the topic of the actors, I'm just going to put this out there. All of the actors in Star Wars are great actors, right? They've gone on, they've done crazy stuff afterwards. There's no way I don't, even Hayden himself went on and did some other stuff after that and was great in it. And I can't help feeling that even when like Natalie Portman's acting is not necessarily fantastic in it, that actually it's not a coincidence. Maybe it was just over direction because it was so clear that certain things needed to be in a certain way to convey.
Have you not heard all the stories about the actors and George Lucas and the fact that he doesn't direct actors? Oh, he doesn't. Doesn't
he?
No, he's technically minded. He's brilliant, but he's not an actor's director. And there's even a story of Mark Hamill being very, very young, and he was getting frustrated. He got on very, very well with Alec Guinness and was talking to him about acting and stuff. And I'm sure that there's a story about Mark Hamill being on the set of A New Hope. And he's getting frustrated because he's getting nothing from Lucas. So he decides to play the scene by taking the piss out of George Lucas.
Right.
And at the end of the scene, Lucas goes, perfect, cut. And Mark Hamill goes, oh my God, I'm playing you. This is your story as a young kid being stuck in a dirtball planet. Okay, right, I've got this now.
Oh no, I hadn't heard about that at all.
Wow.
But I don't know. To me, it just seemed like maybe it was something to do with direction, and
George
that was
Lucas
why.
Is not known for communicating to actors particularly well. He
yeah,
has great vision and everything, but in order to get to the crux of a scene.
But it also, when you think about it, obviously this was, I mean, a lot of what the prequels did was kind of new revolutionary tech, right? I'm not great with dates, guys, so correct me if I'm wrong. But acting with green screens and this sort of thing, kind of a newish thing, right? Or so if you contribute that to it as well, you then think, well, actually, they probably just had a pretty tough time, doing that, because none of them are bad actors today and haven't been in anything else that I've seen any of them in. So I mean,
he's like a farmer now or something. Hayden Christensen, isn't he? He's like a like a farmer.
Yeah. So
what was it called? Jumpers? Was the other film he did called
Jumper?
Jumpers?
I thought he was great in that. Yeah. Honestly, I really liked that.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
God, I've just with Revenge of the Sith, it's James Earl Jones's voice at the end. Obviously, when Hayden makes the full transition to Darth Vader, he's uncredited in the film as Darth Vader's voice. And I didn't find out until later on that he asked not to be credited because he considered Dave Prowse to be the defining Darth Vader, the guy in the suit, because it was obviously Hayden Christensen in the suit at the time. And he asked not to be credited, which I thought, wow, okay, fair enough. Because with Vader, obviously James Earl Jones's voice being so iconic as, the guy, to then ask for that. So that always struck me as because I keep looking at the credits of James Earl Jones, and he's just not there.
No, he ain't. But then, if you've ever seen the outtakes, like the shots when they actually have Dave Prowse just obviously doing the lines, and you think, wouldn't it have been great if they did just actually have his voice dubbed over for the whole film?
Yeah. What's that? There's that Netflix film.
Yeah, I Am Your Father.
I Am Your Father, and
which is such a hard watch because because it makes you realise, how hard done by Dave Prowse actually was, because he would there's always going to be two sides to every story, but from what you can tell, he was not told the truth on so many things in the films. And then there was the big story about how apparently he was dropping spoilers for Star Wars, and he was like, well, no, it never was me. And it wasn't until 30 odd years later that the journalist who broke the story said, oh yes, no, I that wasn't true. It wasn't Dave Prowse. And it's like,
and they still wouldn't let him into any of the conventions.
No, they would. No, because that was it. It was.
I've not heard about any of this.
So there's a film you've got in Netflix. It's called I Am Your Father, and it's basically about Dave. It's about Dave Prowse and how basically he was rumored to have let slip that Luke was the son of Darth Vader before he came in. Now, he denies it. He's always denied it and said it wasn't him. And basically he got banned from... He basically got sidelined, and they were really pissed off with him. And they even got another actor in certain points to sort of play.
They got two other actors. Yeah. Because you had someone else that was a body double, obviously, while he was wearing the suit. And then you had the other actor that was obviously Darth Vader when he got unmasked.
Yeah, and they didn't let him have that scene. So they, after all of that, they didn't give him the scene that he should have rightfully had. And he he was banned from conventions and he was banned from anything sort of and at the the film basically the journalist basically says it wasn't him, he didn't do it and stuff, and to this point now he's not allowed to go to Star Wars conventions, he's not allowed to go to Celebration, he's not allowed to go to any of those things.
Wow.
And they basically, what they did, the filmmakers, I think they're Spanish filmmakers, they did a reshoot of the last scene where Luke unmasks Vader, but they give it and they let David Prowse play it. And they only ever got to show it once at a convention, and that's it. Nobody's ever seen it since.
The cease and desist was hit literally about, I think they said about like 5 minutes after the clip had been shown.
Yeah.
And so obviously it's never been distributed online. It's never been released. It's never been shown again. And it's one of them things that I think we said it before when we were discussing this. It sounds horrible. It sounds very morbid, but I reckon that one day it's going to be like long after Dave Prowse has sadly passed, but I think we will see that footage one day, and then we'll go like, my God, this is brilliant. And I think I think it meant a lot to him to actually finally get that scene.
Yeah.
But then you're always going to be thinking, well, what if he'd been given that part originally, and his career may have been a completely different thing altogether if he'd actually been given that chance to show his face.
What was the question? Why the fuck didn't that journalist say something sooner?
Because journalists are wankers.
Yeah. It's just and it's, I think there was
that's seriously disappointing.
Yeah, well, like I said, there is always two sides to a story. But I've met him a couple of times and stuff, and he's such a nice guy. And it's just like even if he'd sort of he'd said something, by mistake, it didn't deserve what he got. I don't think, and it was very much, overreaction, and the guy's life got,
sidelined. I think is kind of
sidelined. And he wouldn't have made a good voice actor for Darth Vader. He's got this West Coast sort of, West Country sort of, Norfolk and sort of a thing going on, and he obviously did, Earl Jones. His voice is Darth Vader, but they should have given him that last scene where you could see his face. Even if it was dubbed, they should have still had him on the screen. They should have had him, and it's quite sad. It's quite sad to watch. But yeah, something I would love to see on the note of Darth Vader with no helmet. I really would love to see like Hayden done in the burnt makeup, all of that shit. I just want to see like a callback and give him that moment as well, because after so many people shout on him, I feel like that was really sad. Yeah.
Well, they put his Force Ghost in the end of Return of the Jedi. I think that's more than enough for him.
That makes me.
See, I don't know. I don't like that, but
I don't like the fact that Sebastian Shaw got removed in that bit. That makes me sad.
No, I don't like that either, really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right. Anyway, this is now officially the longest podcast we've had.
This is what happens when you incite Star Wars.
Yeah, well, that was really good.
I did try and warn you, JonJo. I did try and
warn you. No, that was brilliant.
I know. And the thing is that we fed to Matt's strong points, and Matt's the kind of guy who literally just goes, "Oh, Star Wars, yes. I will let the chaos ensue," and that's just literally that's like 3/4 of the programming done.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but yes, we'll leave it there because it's getting slightly late. And we've been on for 2 hours, which was good going considering we generally only go on for an hour.
6 of us.
Yeah. So yes. Thank you very much, Erika. That's been an absolute pleasure. Are there anything, what do people need to go and see? Any websites? Give us your plug.
Okay, if anyone would like to follow me personally as an actor, you can find me on Twitter at Erika Sanderson, or Facebook and Instagram as well at Erika Sanderson Actor. Shows that you can find me in would be the No Sleep podcast, which is released weekly. There are free stories every week, and then there's also a season pass subscription that kind of doubles all of your content, and you get bonus stories as well. And with Halloween coming up, all of your horror is taken care of. There are various other shows that I appear in, fantastic ones. There's Shadows at the Door, there is The Wicked Library, there is Victoria's Lift, there is Creepy, those are all of kind of like the horror or ghost story ones that I have appeared in. So get your fill of spooky tales for this October. And then also, if you can, the live stream on Halloween over at Unbound Theatre. Twitch TV /Unbound Theatre, and support theatre and your local arts as much as you can.
Brilliant.
There you go.
Brilliant. Well, yes, again, an absolute pleasure. The horror side and the Star Wars knowledge, all brilliant. Very good. Very much enjoyed it. So for tonight, I've been Matt Geary. With me, as always, has been Peter Ray Allison.
Good night, stay safe and look out for each other.
JonJo Cosgrove.
Take care, friends, one and all.
Josh Varney. Newbie Eleanor Main.
May the force be with you.
and our special guest, Erika Sanderson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good night.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.